Now we come to the last division of the neoclassical period, and that is the age of Johnson, which started in the year 1750 and lasted until 1798, when Wordsworth's Lyrical Ballads was published, and the year 1798 onwards is considered as the Romantic period or the beginning of the Romantic period. So first let us discuss the age of Johnson, and with this age of Johnson we will culminate the entire neoclassical period. The age of Johnson was marked by significant philosophical and social changes in England. Now, what were these philosophical conditions that changed England during this time period? The age of Johnson is also called as the age of enlightenment because reason, individualism, and intellectual curiosity defined this era. So people were becoming more and more curious, and they were only satisfied with reason and logic rather than religion. This age saw the rise of empiricism or scientific learning and reasoning. Philosophers like John Locke, David Hume, and George Berkeley emphasized experience and observation. This was the period that believed in deism, that is, belief in rationality and not whatever the religion said. And then there was seen rise in skepticism, which means thinkers questioned traditional autonomy and traditional dogma. This age also saw emergence of Romanticism, which means a focus on emotional imagination and nature, which will give rise to the next age in England, that is the Romantic era. Now let us also discuss some of the social conditions during this time period in England. The first one is industrialization. England's economy shifted from agriculture to the manufacturing economy. We also see urbanization. Cities grew, leading to new social problems and opportunities. Then we saw a rise of the middle class. Merchants, professionals, and entrepreneurs, they started gaining influence. Fourth is the growing inequality. Wealth disparity increased, which sparked social unrest among the people. Fifth is the colonial expansion. British Empire expanded, raising questions about imperialism and slavery, which was increasing. For example, the colonization of India was happening during this time period. We must also consider some of the social issues that were happening in England during this time period. The first is the poverty and crime, which was increasing. Urbanization led to increase in poverty, crime, and social unrest. The growing slavery led to abolitionist movements which gained momentum. People started talking about women's rights. Feminist thinkers like Mary Wollstonecraft advocated for women's education and women's equality in society. This age also witnessed some religious tensions. Conflicts between Anglicans, dissenters, and Catholics persisted. Various cultural developments also happened during this time period. The first was the literary movements. For example, Neoclassicism gave way to Romanticism and Gothic fiction. So Neoclassical was gradually fading away, giving way to Romanticism and Gothic fiction. Science was increasing. Discovery in physics, chemistry, and biology transformed understanding of the natural world. Then we saw a rise in education, expansion of education, including women's education, which began to transform the society overall. Now let us discuss the major events that happened during the age of Johnson. The first one was the American Revolution, which started in 1775 and lasted up to 1783, where American colonies declared their independence from British rule. This period also saw the rise of French Revolution, which started in 1789 at the end of the age of Johnson and lasted up to 1799, which inspired various new ideas among the people. We also saw Industrial Revolution happening during this time period, which transformed England's economy. British Empire was also expanding during this time, and which continued to colonize other nations through East. The various key figures that emerged during this time period, or the key literary authors that emerged during this time period, were Samuel Johnson, David Hume, Adam Smith, Edmund Burke, Mary Wollstonecraft, etc. All these philosophical and social conditions that were happening in England, they changed the shape of England and the kind of literature, art and culture of the age was changing during this time period. Now let us know about the literature and major literary figures of this period, which is important for us to know from the exam point. Let's first discuss the major poets of this time period. The first and foremost poet of this time period is Samuel Johnson, on whose name this age is often called as the Age of Johnson. Often called as Dr. Johnson, Samuel Johnson was an English writer who made lasting contributions as a poet, playwright, essayist, moralist, literary critic, biographer, editor, and lexicographer. That means one who compiles dictionaries. His most famous poems are London, published in 1738, The Vanity of Human Wishes, The Tenth Satire of Juvenal is another poem written in the late 1748 and published in 1749. We should also know about some of the major prose writers of this period. The first one is Samuel Johnson. Again, he was also writing prose. The most famous work associated with Johnson's is his voluminous work of compiling the dictionary named the Dictionary of the English Language, published in 1755. But it took him almost 7 years to completely compile his dictionary. He is also known to have written short biographies and critical appraisals of 52 poets, most of whom lived during the 18th century. And the name of the volume was known as The Lives of Poets, published in 1779 to 81. Oliver Goldsmith was not included in this list. Another important work by Johnson is his periodical called The Rambler, published in 1750 to 52. The Rambler was written primarily for the rising middle class of the 18th century who sought social fluency within aristocratic social circles. The Rambler discussed subjects such as morality, literature, society, politics and religion, and it has almost 208 articles published in it. Edmund Burke was another prose writer during this time who published a philosophical treatise named A Philosophical Enquiry into the Origins of Our Ideas of the Sublime and Beautiful. It was published in the year 1753. Now we come to the major dramatists of the Age of Johnson. The first important dramatist of this period was Richard Brinsley Sheridan, or commonly known as Sheridan. He wrote several prominent plays, but these two are most important of them all. The first is The Rivals, published in 1775, and the second is The School for Scandal, published in 1777. The School for Scandal is considered as the greatest play under the comedy of manners category. It has a very famous character named Lady Sneerwell, who is shown as a sharp-tongued, hypocritical schemer and a gossip monger belonging to the high society. Second important dramatist of this period was Oliver Goldsmith. Goldsmith, besides being a poet, was also a dramatist who wrote two most famous comedy plays, The Good-Natured Man in 1768 and She Stoops to Conquer in 1771, which has famous character Mrs. Hardcastle as the central figure. The play explores the themes such as conflict between class expectations, emotional honesty, and whether feelings of true love should outweigh the desires for wealth. The next important dramatist of this period was Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson, besides writing poetry and prose, is also known to have written a single tragedy called Irene, which was published in 1726. It is the only play that he wrote. So that was all about the neoclassical age or the age of enlightenment, and with this I culminate the entire neoclassical period for you. I hope you have understood it very well. Now I would only suggest you to attempt the quizzes at the end of each section so you can better understand the entire age effectively. Thank you.